Here, TK and Drinks, and we've got another episode of the BJCP Style Guidelines Advice Series, working with M3B today, spice, herb, and vegetables. We should be joined by Mr. Billy Belts of Lost Cause Meadery out of San Diego, California. Those guys do a significant number of spices in their meads. They do an aperitif mead that is absolutely, or it's actually an aperitif wine that is absolutely like very like true to like the most or not a aperitif, a digestif. Oh, here we go. And accept the go and let Mr. Belts describe their process and procedures. Fingers crossed, we got some video. Of course, it's going to be like that. I go live. All right, so there are definitely always technical difficulties with this crap. So let's see if we can't. Resend invite on my end. There we go. Fingers crossed. That's the only thing I hate about Instagram Live is there's always issues connecting. But hey, there we go. Second time's a charm.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Billy, for joining me tonight.
Yeah, good to be here.
So, BJCP style guidelines, spice meads, herb meads, vegetable meads. You guys have a significant hand in using all of those things throughout your meads, and a handful of like capsamels that have been known to win some awards as well. So I figured you'd have some good advice for the people out there trying to make a good spice, herb, or vegetable mead.
Yeah, yeah. Where do you want to start? I've been doing it for a while.
I guess let's start with, in your opinion, what makes a great spice, herb, or vegetable mead?
Let me see if I can get. Oh, got it.
Yes.
You can hear me fine?
Yep. You're just fine.
Cool. What makes a great, well, of all the styles, that one uh, is really all about balance, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be in balance. We've made plenty of spiced meads that are intentionally out of balance, but that's where the difficulty comes in. Uh, if you want it balanced, that's the challenge with spiced meads, right? Because a lot of times you're playing with, um, fruit. The range of intenseness is pretty wide, but nothing like dealing with spices and botanicals and herbs.
Very
You
true.
can go from something super soft like vanilla that is, you really got to overshoot to mess that up, to something intense like a chili pepper, or bitter like wormwood, or gentian root, something like star anise, where
Anise. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like too much of it just takes over the whole thing. So I think that's the difficulty, and that's also what can make a great spice meat, is when you taste one and you're like, oh, they just nailed this. There's the perfect amount of rosemary, um, and judges love that too. Like when you
Sure.
use a spice and you nail it, it's the perfect amount for whatever you're doing. It's really appreciated. I think sometimes more than other styles that are in balance. When you make a spice meat in balance, people really appreciate it.
It's almost like a well-seasoned meal or a well-seasoned dish. It's all these other, like you're saying, the fruit ones, everything. Those are nice, everything. But when you nail down like an herb or spice meat and it's a well balanced, it showcases. It's got a certain je ne sais quoi that you don't get from other ingredients, and I completely agree with that. Um, so when you're making a spice mead, versus anything else, where would you place importance of honey choice in that process? Because like you're saying, a lot of these can be really strong flavors. So is it something that you can put on the back burner, or is it equally as important to other styles?
Really depends on what you're making. You know, um, it completely depends on, like, because spice meads can be anything, and you can be making a mead where the honey choice is going to be completely overshadowed, and that's fine. You can also make a mead that is intended to be cohesive with the honey choice. Like a couple spices that we have meads we've made really well that were spice meads where I think where we nailed it was we paired the right honey, with the right spices is one like a chili mead, especially like a dried smoky
Oh yeah.
chili mead. You can use an orange blossom or a wildflower, but if you get your hands on like some avocado blossom,
Ooh.
some carrot blossom, just something that's more robust, earthy, especially it has like some of those like fig, um, oxidized characteristics.
Right.
Yeah, it just goes great with certain chili peppers. And so, um, and then if you go like habanero or something, or fratelli pepper or something, you're going to want, maybe you will want orange blossom or something completely different. So that's an example of one that I think honey choice could play a big part in. Chocolate mead too.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of chocolate meads in my time, and
Yeah.
when you make a chocolate meads are really difficult.
Yeah.
They're they're difficult to make a great one,
Oh,
because I mean, unless you're just getting straight chocolate sauce or flavoring, you're normally working with like cacao nibs and vanilla to kind of recreate that chocolate note. And
yeah.
everything matters, I think, in a chocolate mead, like the yeast you use,
Oh,
tannins or oak, and then honey, I think plays a big part in it either tasting more like chocolate or tasting more like Tootsie Roll, or tasting more, like Caribe, or just there's a lot of ways that cacao nibs can take a mead, and so that's one where I think really matters. But really, I mean, it's hard to find a mead where the honey choice doesn't matter with spices, unless you're making, just like
ridiculously hot
something that's,
capsamel for the sake of being hot.
yeah, or you just make, I mean, say you're making like a pumpkin spice mead, right? Like,
Mm.
um, sure, I mean, I love pumpkin blossom honey if you can get your hands on it from Flying Bee, but other than that, like, you're just gonna want it to smell and taste like pumpkin spice latte. So like honey choice still plays a role. You may not go orange blossom, but yeah. So there's some that are gonna matter, and some that maybe matter less.
Awesome. And that, I mean, you already touched on it in previous comment there. So yeast selection is also going to play a fairly large choice in, your selection. Especially you said if you're trying to recreate a chocolate flavor, and through your experience, the yeast selection matters. I'm sure it's going to, matter with any other spices that you're working with, or peppers for that matter.
Oh yeah, yeah. Was there someone laying in their bed for one of your past interviews?
Yes.
Who was it?
Oh, not a commercial meat maker for this interview. It was my buddy Kyle. He
Okay, all
was
right.
definitely in bed for his interview.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Um,
So sorry, what you asked?
uh, yeast selection. How does that, the same as honey selection? It's going to play, as big of a role as you let it, or make it, or have it. I'm sure, right?
So like I think yeast selection um, is I think it's important. I think it's less important than the amount of um, like focus that is put on it in
Mm,
the home mead making community. If you're making a dry mead, or an off-dry mead, yes, yeast profile is going to make a huge, huge difference, like it would like a wine or a beer, right? If you're making a waterless mead or just any kind of like semi-sweet to sweet, whether it's fruit or spice mead, yeast the yeast selection is going to be important in terms of choosing a yeast you're comfortable with to get a healthy ferment, but less so in terms of like, oh, this yeast profile, is super estery or adds to mouthfeel. If you have a semi-sweet mead or a sweet mead, like the mouthfeel that's added from a yeast strain is so negligent compared to you're adding
Right.
residual sugar or keeping residual sugar in the meat. It's way less important. So, and I say that because spice meads are often semi-sweet to sweet, right? Not always. I shouldn't say that. Someone like Hierophant Mead up in Washington, they do a lot of dry spice meads, and they're like, they're the king and queen of spices. But
Yeah.
but a lot of times you are going to use some residual sugar to balance spices, more than you would maybe other styles. So you often, like dry spice category when you're judging, we all joke, is like the worst one to like get assigned to because
Oh
you,
yeah.
you'll just get like out of balance meads, right? So you can definitely do it, but yeah. So I think that with spice meads, like someone like John Talkington or some other people who've made a million spice meads and played with a million different yeast profiles. I think
Yeah.
he's got some favorites, strains with certain spices, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's less important than other styles.
That that definitely makes sense to me. I have not done a whole lot of spice meats other than add certainly never one by itself, but other than just adding, like vanilla and actually I think vanilla is the only thing I've really worked with spice wise. I'm planning on working some cacao nibs, but yeah. Um, so what about like a feeding schedule? Would you change up your feeding schedule or do you do anything different for spice meats than you would for any other flavor?
No, not in terms of nutrients. One thing that can come into play, like for example, in a chocolate mead, you have to be careful when you're using spices. If let's say you're making a chocolate mead, right, and um, you're not using any fruit. It's not like a chocolate raspberry mead. It's just like a chocolate something mead,
Yep.
or just chocolate mead. Uh, you're you're probably going to want it to have some residual sugar, and you're not going to want to add a lot of acid because that doesn't always pair with what people think of like as chocolate. Um,
Okay. That's very
you,
true.
you know, like you don't want it to be tart, right? So in adding a bunch of cacao nibs and only, not adding anything with acid to it, you're going to end up with a high pH mead, and those
Mm,
can be dangerous. And not dangerous. They're harder, right, to keep stable. Now, you just have to know what you're doing. So, um, like a chocolate mead is one example where one of the reasons I said it was difficult is because it's a lot easier for a chocolate mead to go bad or a mead that is, a sweet mead with spices where there's no acid added and nothing to bring the pH back down.
hmm
You can like coconut, things that just don't fit with an acidic profile. You just have to know, like if you're working with something that's like 4.0 or higher pH, you're going to have to be on your game in terms of protecting the mead, stabilizing it, or whatever
Right.
you're doing. So that's where it brings in a different element that you maybe haven't worked with if you've just done like fruit meads, or if you've just doing like session traditional meads and you're adding a little bit of acid anyways. Like
Yeah.
these really sweet, like a chocolate coconut mead, almost always has like a high pH, and especially if you want to age it, yeah, you got to take that into account.
Be careful when you're aging chocolate meads. Copy that. Um, so I know with like your berry meads or your traditionals, a lot of people opt to go with like a tannic color preservative or additive, like a FT Blanc or a Rouge or like a Opti White or Red or something like that. Have you do you have any experience with that? And is that something that you would recommend people do, or would you recommend they try to get away from something like that and just do it through other means?
Uh, you said for color stabilization?
Yeah, I've never used an FT Blanc or a Rouge or like an Opti Red or White, but my understanding of their product is like it's a tannic additive that's also used to like restore and preserve color in like the FT Blanc and Rouge in like a red or a dark colored mead. And then same thing with like the Opti White. It'd be, for enhancing the color and tannic value for a, traditional or a lighter colored mead.
Yeah. I've used, I think, all of those before. Um, I know some people swear by them. Carvin used to use a couple of those in every mead he made, and some other people as well, some really good mead makers. I don't use them. I played with them a lot at home and then starting commercially. And I think at the end of the day, my advice to mead makers is um, the Scott Labs stuff, all that stuff. It's built for wine, right? And when they say it's going to have a certain impact, um, that's for wine. They're not writing it for me. They're not thinking about mead. You can call Scott Labs. You can ask them a question. But if you know what you're doing as a mead maker, you're going to know more than them. They're going to be like, hey, I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah.
Um, so like so much of that stuff can be great, um, but is just not going to have the same impact unless you're making like a dry traditional. If you're making a dry traditional, some of those can have significant impact or ish.
Yeah.
I never found a huge one with any of those, but yeah, I mean, I think mead makers. My advice: worry less about yeast strain and less about like Opti White or FT Blanc or something. Get amazing honey and get your yeast paired with your nutrient profile down. Be able to make a completely, a delicious mead at the end of fermentation, a healthy fermentation. Then, master the art of using fruit, using spices, but all this Scott Lab stuff, like it's just a rabbit hole that, I mean, I went down it for a long time, and then I think, and we make pretty intense. We've gotten away from like dry traditionals, right? Like where we
Yeah.
started, we make some pretty intense meats. So some of that stuff, it's not something that's gonna impact it as much as other stuff I'm working with. But um, I don't know. I think it's way less important than just like master one or two yeast strains, use really good ingredients. And the
Yeah.
thing with spices is like do your due diligence, your research on every single spice you use and use the best quality of whatever it is.
Yeah. I think that's been one of the paramount points from all these interviews is quality in is going to get you more in, quality out than any of the other tips or hit tricks or any other thing you're trying to do. Yeah, those things are great for like maybe potentially fine tuning some stuff, but quality honey, quality fermentation is going to be your biggest ally in the on your path to collecting metals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In that same regard, like what are some other what's some other advice you would give to somebody who's trying to take a mead from like a mid 30s to like that 40 plus?
Um, I mean, in the spice category.
in that category specifically, but any other advice is always welcome.
Yeah, in the spice category, if you can just pair a, if you can pair a spice with the perfect honey or the perfect fruit and get the balance nailed, I mean, those are the meads that don't just medal, they end up getting best of shows. Like when you think about so many meads that I've judged too, that had the highest score or went to best of show, it's where someone, um, took something a little more difficult, like using a spice with a fruit or a spice with just a spice mead, and nailed it. So like um, that's that's what judges appreciate.
Yeah,
I won a lot of my medals before going commercial with chili meats because I just was able to pair the chilies with the right honey and then get the spice level dialed in, which really isn't that hard. You just, um, it takes patience. It also takes going outside of the same old pairings. Like don't
get away
make,
get away from the conventional stuff.
yeah, like, and I've said, I mean, people that have listened to me have heard this a million times, but like, the world doesn't need another like mango habanero mead. Like, just don't do it. Use a different fruit or a different chili, and kind of challenge yourself. It's really not that hard. I mean,
It's true, true.
the pairings that you can come up with are, um, it can be amazing. Like a yes, make a strawberry basil mead if that's what you want to do, but like also get outside of that and see
Yeah,
what else is going to pair beautifully with strawberry or beautifully with basil. Um,
absolutely.
the one of the last meads I had that was like such a good fruit and spice pairing was I think it was a passion. It was a tropical fruit. It was like a passion fruit and like Thai basil
Ooh,
mead, carbonated mead, and it's just like, oh man, the fruit and the spice built something so beautiful together, and the Thai basil was just like the perfect amount that you're just like, oh, this is the most memorable mead of the day for me.
right.
Um, Even after having uh, like great Polish meads, and everything that day. That was the one that stuck out to me. So yeah, I mean, spice. If you want to shoot for some high scores and some best of shows, spices are where it's at. Just get outside the box and try and do some unique pairings and and also get outside like my other spice rant is like don't use whatever they just have available at the store or Penzies. Like like vanilla is not vanilla. Don't just
Right.
use Madagascar vanilla. Like spend some money, get some Mexican vanilla, get that, and use that for a coffee or a chocolate mead. It'll
Yeah.
completely change the mead. Use Indonesian vanilla for like a strawberry mead rather than Madagascar.
Ooh,
Like just like get do your research on vanilla, and every this is for every spice. It's for cacao nibs, it's for coffee, it's for chili peppers. There's so
right.
many different varietals out there. Like use what will really work best, and all it takes is like a quick Google search and a couple bench trials. That's it.
Yeah, if you really want to make something that especially is out winning medals and stands out to that degree, grocery store stuff typically isn't gonna cut it. I mean, you can always sneak one through and whatnot, but you have a much more significant chance of really impressing and wowing people when you, like you said, get out of that normal lane and find something a little more exotic, something a little more interesting, something a little more um, unique. And like you said, I mean, I know I do, and you mentioned you do it. When you see something on the score sheet coming up that you're gonna get to, like you said, this passion fruit Thai basil. That sounds absolutely wonderful. And just even the name is something that you don't see often. And just that it alone is sparks intrigue in people and automatically, I think, gets you, primes the judge for, leading towards a better score.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so I guess, what do you say are some other pitfalls that people would make when attempting to make spice or spice meads? Because I'm sure there's a significant number of those.
Oh yeah. Well, uh, out of balance, right? Overdoing spices. There's when you're working with spices, if it's not a recipe you've made before, just go slow and add a little bit at a time. That's the great thing about mead. You can, just keep adding a little bit more. You can keep playing with it. Hard to
Yeah,
take away once you've added too much. So,
very much
um,
so.
I don't do. Uh, um, I do like direct maceration when I do spice mead. So I put the spice directly in.
Mm,
I don't do tinctures, but I know a lot of people have a lot of success with tinctures. That's another way to kind of dial it in. I've always just liked to do direct maceration.
yeah,
But other pitfalls, I think, knowing your spice, knowing the best way to use it. Is it something that you just add in, or is it something that needs to be um, heated, and cooked to bring out certain oils? Is it
yeah,
something that needs to be like coffee? Coffee takes some experience. If you just grind up coffee and add it to a mead, I mean, that's, in my experience, the worst way to use coffee in a mead. You
mm,
know, so do a bench trial with whole bean versus coarse ground versus fine ground versus cold brew.
mm,
Um, you'll find that like some of those add a lot more to the nose, and some of those like cold brew actually um, add more to the taste. Much less to the aroma, and you can kind of blend those different techniques to get to where you want, where you actually have a coffee flavor that's going to um, not punch you in the nose and then die off in 6 months, but
right.
still be there. So I think getting to know your spices and how to use them, and yeah. I mean, that's really where people go wrong
Yeah,
is they use too much, or they just use
use it
it in the
incorrectly.
use it incorrectly. Yeah, like
Is there a methodology people? Well, I'm sure just looking like doing a Google search on how to, you know, properly use spices is one thing, but I imagine a lot of that would be for cooking. But do you think a lot of those same methodologies would apply if you're activating the spice, or say if you're heating it up, you're trying to activate the spice to get certain phenols and, like you said, release oils or certain characteristics out of it. I'm sure those same characteristics that you would find in applying to the food would apply to the meat. I would
yeah.
hope.
I mean, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's whether you want that or not, is different. But like, yeah,
Mm,
talking to chefs or just seeing how spices are used in uh, cooking can give inform you a bit on how you may want to use it. And keep in mind how spices are used in baking or something where a spice is added um, when it's being cooked or heated. Is you have to know that if you're going to not cook it and just directly add a spice in, it's going to be different. So you can't always just take advice from like a cookbook and apply that to a mead.
that's
Um,
fair.
but yeah, I think that yeah, and actually there's a good comment. When to add it is really important as well, and will change the mead. I add almost all of my spices post fermentation.
I was
Uh,
going to ask that coming up.
Yeah. There's not a lot of spices that I work with where I found better results
in
during
primary?
fermentation.
Yeah.
That said, I also like, it's a lot harder to do a bench trial, adding something in, fermentation and then post and then seeing comparing. So it's
Yeah.
you almost have to, like, you can't do that with every spice you're going to use.
Oh no.
But certain ones that we do know about, hops, of course, right? Hops are going to um, be different when used during ferment. Even if you're dry hopping during fermentation,
Yeah.
it's going to be different than dry hopping after. Oak, will be different, give a different profile if used during fermentation. But for a lot of stuff, you when you're adding a spice, you normally want exactly what that spice smells like. So there's really no reason to do it during fermentation. You don't want a different version of it. You just want what the spice is. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've definitely found I haven't come across any spice that I would want to throw in fermentation. I found a handful of coffee meads out there, and I'm not sure there's any of them that have coffee in fermentation. I'm not sure any of those are my favorite ones. It tends to give this really, I don't know, peculiar flavor, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's a,
coffee would be interesting. I mean, I've been drinking some like co-fermented coffee beans recently that where the coffee bean is fermented. I mean, that's all coffee beans are fermented before they're used for coffee. So like a lot of people are fermenting them with other fruits or something like that.
oh, I
But
got you.
that's with like a raw coffee bean, like fermenting with roasted coffee beans. I don't know. I'd be curious what someone says it does. But yeah, like
Yeah.
it would. If you add coffee, you normally just want like the coffee aroma and
Yeah.
flavor, not something different.
Well, the ones that I had that I can specifically remember anyway, it like you said, it increases the pH so much it gives it this kind of like hyper, like almost not like astringent, but like astringent, but without like the puckering. It's like the sharp bitterness, but it doesn't give you like the same flavors. Like the flavor profile is completely changed because of fermentation process. Like it's very peculiar.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So have you found that it's like working in different temperature zones um, works better for different spices? Like if you ferment, use it's better to do like a Kveik style hot ferment with, this particular spice because it opens up more, or is it pretty much, as long as you're fermenting within the healthy yeast range for the yeast, the yeast you're using, you're pretty much going to get the same type of flavor profile.
Well, I mean, like I said, we only add spices post
Oh,
fermentation.
post
So
fermentation, yeah.
yeah, like everything's just going to be ambient.
Yeah, some of these questions are carryover from my berry ones. I apologize.
All good.
Um, all right, let's get, I guess, a little into the more, I guess, theoretical kind of thought-provoking style questions. Um, where, what do you feel, or how do you feel about the state of mead comps today? And what, if anything, do you feel could make them better?
Um, I don't. That's a tough one. I think I've been a little removed from a lot of meat comps the
Hmm.
last few years. I've gone out to Mazer Cup and gone out to the one in Minnesota. Oh man,
Valkyrie's horn?
Valkyrie's Horn. Yeah. Sorry guys, forgot that one. Yeah, both amazing competitions. Haven't really, done much with, and I've judged an HC, but I don't know. I miss the camaraderie that came with the old Mazer Cup when it was uh, something we all went to, and there was you know,
Convention and everything.
yeah, the meat con, and then like the dinner with the awards banquet, like that. That to me was the biggest difference from now because it was just a blast to party with everyone in the industry for a week. But
Right.
other than that, I mean, I'd like to say judges are better now. I don't think. I think it's um, that may be slightly true. That every year they get a little better, but like so many competitions, other than uh, like just even Mazer Cup, like competitions just need judges, and so there's always
True.
this huge mix of like really experienced judges and then like someone who just signed up and said that they can judge meat, and you get a lot
Yeah.
of people. They may even be good meat makers, or maybe they've been making meat for 30 years, but just like um, not the best when it comes to judging really great meat and offering great feedback. So I think,
Very true.
but I would say the quality of home mead seems to have continued to get better every year. I mean,
I
when
would say
I
the competition is getting significantly stronger.
yeah, I don't think the competition is the same at the commercial level. There's not as many.
Oh, sure.
I don't. I just don't think there's as many meaderies entering anymore. If you look at like the numbers for the competitions, maybe that's going to turn around. The pandemic
Yeah.
really kind of changed things for a few years. So hopefully that does. I'd love to see the level of competition with commercial meaderies um, get back to what I think it was pre-pandemic. But
Right.
for home, yeah, I mean, home, every year mead makers are getting better. I know, like in San Diego, the home mead makers have gotten a lot better every year, and um, we've had great mead makers for decades, and so like the home competition, yeah, I mean, it seems to keep improving.
Yeah. And you guys host a local homebrew group, so I'm sure you're like directly seeing like improvements on a on a week monthly scale, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it. And we had Alex, one of the mead makers, that she comes to our Mead Geek Society meetings, and she's a co-op member. She just won the NHC Mead Maker of the Year,
Mm-hmm.
so that was cool. It's been a while since a San Diego mead maker had won that. So yeah, I get to see it, and I don't know if it's the same everywhere. There's certain areas like Minnesota, they've been making great mead for a long time, but I feel like San Diego, I know with everything Carvin and a few other guys have done in Arizona,
Hmm.
the quality seems to have gone up a lot there. I would imagine it's pretty much going up everywhere, yeah, at the home level.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Um, what are your thoughts about removing historical names from styles, like getting rid of Pyment and Metheglin and Melomel, and just calling it mixed berry meads or spice meads?
Uh, for the purposes of of competitions, or just in general?
I guess just in general. I guess more for the. I guess this would be more for the purpose of making mead more approachable for like advocacy purposes.
Doesn't matter. No one cares.
That's a very solid point. I think most people don't care.
No one
Um,
cares. You can, I think the people that are into mead like the style names. They like if they know, if it's a sizer or a piment. So I enjoy, using those terms, but like whatever you call it, it's going to have no impact on the larger public. This is um, it's just, it's a niche beverage, and um, I think tying it to historical terms is fun for people. I think it gives it a little bit of validation where, if you take that away, like it's not going to make it make more sense to people. People aren't,
It's not
not,
established enough to where if you took it away, people are gonna draw differently.
yeah, like no one is like, oh, I had mead once, but I'm not really into it because I didn't understand all the weird terms. Like, you know,
The
like,
lexicon kept me away from drinking because I couldn't speak the right terms.
yeah. And I think in general, I've been doing this a while, and now we have a winery. We're making. I was out in the vineyard this morning picking grapes. Like we've got the wine business going, and so I get to
Hmm.
see how people react to that brand versus like my Mead brand that I've had for 8 years that has been really
Yeah,
successful. Just like Mead is always going to be Mead, and it's great, and it's an amazing beverage. It's the most versatile alcohol on the planet, and the people that appreciate it love it, and it'll continue to grow. But we just like, I think, need to not worry about making it appeal to everyone. It shouldn't. It's not like, honey is expensive as shit. And this is like where mead excels is when you're making a mead that is something you can't get anywhere else, right? Like a
true.
Shram's, you can't get that much like sweetness and acid balance and fruit and complexity in another drink anywhere in the world, any other style. I can get a coconut lime off dry session beverage anywhere.
Yeah,
It could be a beer, it could be a hard seltzer. So
a
you make it a mead.
kombucha. Yeah.
Yeah, like just let's stop trying to make mead as broad as possible. This is my rant, okay? So
No, I'm
sorry,
here.
but
No, no, you're on your soapbox. I love it.
like just let's let go of trying to make mead like a race. I think it's a race to the bottom now because what you have hard seltzers, you have RTDs, you have these things that are just sugar and water and like flavoring, and
Yeah.
that's what the masses want to drink. Like let them drink it. Let the rest of us really enjoy this amazing beverage. So like, no, I say keep with the historical terms. Let's
Yeah.
maybe just decide if we like Capsamel or Capsicamel. Maybe that's the only one we
Terminologies
figure.
we're keeping them, but pronunciations now we gotta debate. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, what's your thoughts on breaking down categories further? Say, um, expanding like the sweetness range. Adding like something beyond sweet, say 1025 to 1040 is sweet. Anything beyond that is like a dessert sweet, or breaking down like how spice is just spice herb and vegetable doesn't have a dry semi-sweet sweet. Do we need those further delineations?
I think I think the sweetness delineations for judging, yes, for competitions are important. Um, I will say like the gravity ranges really have nothing to do with
Agreed.
how sweet something is perceived, uh, and thus really have no impact on what category you should enter it in. So,
Yep.
um, it usually takes mead makers a couple competitions to figure that out, or once you judge, you realize it. Yeah, like if something you can have a mead entered as semi-sweet that's um, 1065 finish gravity, and you can have a mead that is 1008 and you have to put it into semi-sweet and not dry. It's all comes down to how
Perception.
it's perceived and how much acid or tannins or not is there. And so um, I think it's good to have like those different sweetness levels in the categories. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's necessary for I don't say fairness or equality, but like I would much rather see a competition have two entries into the dry spice category and one of those take a medal because there's no way a dry spice meat's ever going to win against, some spiced something, some sweeter version of that spiced version. It's so hard for a dry to compete in the same category against a sweet, especially when they do, um, when they, have low, when a competition has low entry volume, so they combine categories. So we're going to combine, fruit and spice urban vegetable because we don't have enough or whatever it is. And now you've got this, like you said, you got this dry attempting to be this dry chocolate mead going against, or a capsamel going against, like a something that's borderline like Polish. It's almost, like a bloodbath.
Yeah, I mean, so here's why the sweetness levels matter, and um, it's for the it's to get the best meads to the mini boss table, right? So because when you get to a mini boss table, mini best of show, like what is going to place, there you have the best judges, and the best judges don't give. They can appreciate a dry spice mead. They can appreciate a dry fruit mead, and they can judge it fairly against a sweet Polish mead. So I think what the spice or the sugar, the sweetness levels do is they help get good meads, no matter what sweetness level, through inexperienced judges to the experienced judges, if that makes sense. Like that's all that we're trying to do. Because I agree with you 100%. A lot of it's unfair to judge those. Yeah, except when you get to a table and it's four, or six mini boss judges, and we're all experienced and we all know what we're doing. 100% those dry meads can absolutely compete, and they do, and I see it all the time. So, but 80% of, and it's not the judges, but it's 80% of like people out there are even mead people. They're just not going to have the experience yet um, to judge them fairly against one another. So I think that's the
Right.
purpose. Why I think every category should have it. And I know sometimes you don't have enough entries, but like
Right.
you just want to get, you want that beautiful bone dry, um, sparkling strawberry mead to be able to compete against that Polish mead. But you got to get to the mini boss table for it to be like fair judged.
Yeah. I listening to you, I think you're 100% right. Once you get to that mini boss table, you definitely get the people who are you're significantly more likely to get the people who are dedicated, who have that experience to be able to pick up those nuanced things and to your point, appreciate those nuanced differences. Um, yeah, I guess the trick is getting it from the table that from the first table to that mini boss, and that goes back to as no fault of the mead making community. There's just not a stable of highly qualified judges for all of these competitions all the time.
No, I mean, no, it's very hard to find, and
Yeah.
it takes a lot of experience, no matter how good of a palate you have or how good of a mead maker you are. It you have to have judged enough meads and sampled enough meads, I feel, to like really be able to fairly judge the merits of a particular mead in any style,
Oh, for sure.
against other ones.
Oh yeah, I find myself all the time struggling to call myself anything other than a novice. I don't have that experience at the tables with, especially being paired with people who are significantly more experienced and knowledgeable and have those that type of experience to share. I would love to see there be some sort of, you know, and I don't know how to do it, but I'd love to see there be some sort of, uprising and people wanting to add judging to their, repertoire of skills. When it, as in addition to being a great mead maker, I also want to be a great mead judge. But I just don't see people caring that much, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a lot of volunteer time that's hard to get, but it makes you a much better mead maker.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Trying as many meads and drinking mead makes you a better mead maker. Drinking as many meads as you can, finding the ones that are outside the box, finding those strawberry Thai basil ones and not just another, mango habanero mead, so to speak. That's definitely gonna bolster your skills. I guess I think it's kind of silly, but should we separate session meads from still meads when we're doing competitions as well, or just let them? Is that too much delineation, and now we're really just parsing?
Well, I mean, session
Or
session
carbonated
make
versus still?
carbonate versus still. No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It was something that was posed to me for a question to ask, and every time I think about it, it's like that. I think that would be too much delineation from the thing, and it would a good. I don't think a carbonation level is a determining factor in whether something's good or not good. And I think they can be equally judged against the carbonated meat, evenly judged against the carbonated meat fairly easily.
Yeah, I mean, people say sometimes like carbonated meads. If you take the same mead and you carbonate it, it'll often do better score wise as a carbonated mead.
Right.
Like if there's um, if you make a great uh, black currant mead, it's going to be a hit versus like a great orange mead. Like there's just like
Yeah.
there's everywhere. There's things that are just if you do it well, can be a little bit more enjoyable to people. But like no, I mean, if either way, at the end of the day, you got to make a great mead to 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 win. So whether you carbonate or not, but I
Yeah.
think they should be compared next to each other. I don't think it should be split out. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't see any reason to do that. I I guess I just want more people to be able to. I want there to be more categories and more separation, just for the sake of things being able to be judged evenly against each other. I was talking to Ken Schramm a couple of weeks ago about the and you mentioned wine, about how wine has this like much larger penetration into the market and just exists on a larger scale as a whole. So like if you're trying to judge, you can judge like a Melbeck. You can find 14, 15, 20 different Melbecks that are all so similar that you're going to be able to pick up the nuanced differences between those. They're so rare that you would come across, like, his example was like a heritage raspberry mead that's everybody's done. You couldn't find seven different heritage raspberry meads that are the only thing that was different was the producer and the region that it came from and stuff. And I just I would be interested to see, more of that type of stuff happening. And I guess erroneously thinking that if we separated categories, there might be more of it existing to fill those categories, but that's probably not the case.
Yeah, yeah. With me, there's unlike beer, I think beer is judged to style completely, right?
Yeah,
You're taught to judge, not like, oh, I really love this beer. That'll play into it, but you're judging to style. Does it
right.
meet all the guidelines in the BJCP? Now, BJCP is usually what everyone uses for mead, but yeah, for those reasons, you also need to judges should approach it kind of like a lot of wine competitions where it's it's not just a style. It's do you love it? Does it taste good? And because yeah, it's impossible to find a bunch of meads in the same. Even the categories that they built for BJCP, they're so wide ranging in terms of
Oh, for
what you
sure.
do with them. It's just like at the end of the day, you just got to make a great mead, um, and judges will
Either
like it or
appreciate it or won't.
yeah, and sometimes I've gotten some feedback on some like over the years meads I thought were like technically really well done, right? Like and you just want to be like, no, this was a difficult ingredient to work with, and I feel like I mastered it in this. And then you get the score, and at the end of the day, the judge is like, yeah, but like I wouldn't drink it again. I didn't love it, and that is how they should be judged. Like you got to take that feedback. So
Yeah, and I think that that's a very astute point. Is there's a big difference between making um, aiming to make competition winning meads in certain categories and making meads within that category that are commercially appealing to a quote unquote mass market.
yeah,
Because what the judges love is not always what is commercially viable,
hmm
and vice versa. What always commercially viable, the judges don't always like.
yeah, very true.
Any last minute into the you know into the night type of gaming the system type of hints you would get. Like one of the hints that we had from somebody gaming the system was, if there's a flavor in your mead, regardless of style, that doesn't show up, don't list it on the ingredients. If you put strawberries in your multi-berry mead and you don't taste the strawberries, certainly don't list it on there because you're going to get dinged for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm in the majority or minority in this, but I absolutely disagree with that. I
Oh,
think that, yeah, I don't know where that came from. In terms of I've heard it a lot.
yeah,
I
same.
I don't think that that's uh, I don't think that is in the intention of judging, and yeah, I think if ever knew that, I would disqualify a mead if someone had either
And
left out what they added uh, or said something was added when it wasn't. Like
sure.
like what are you doing? You're if you added pomegranates to your blueberry and blackcurrant mead and you don't get pomegranate and you don't list that, like that's I think just cheating. Like you added pomegranates, and if the judge isn't smart enough to realize that like this mead is the sum of its parts, and the problem there is judges who think they should taste everything listed, and so like I don't think playing to stupid judges is like the solution. I think like, hey, maybe maybe you get dinged, but like man, it's because there was a shitty judge. Like I don't know. I mean, don't
Yeah,
not list something. I really um, I've heard people say that before, and I just uh, like no. You have to list everything, and you have to. I mean, everything you put in there is why the mead tastes the way it does.
right.
Um,
It,
and like if you have a judge that can't figure that out, or um, if you have someone who like doesn't understand that things can add body or tannin or acid and don't have they're not going to add to the aroma or taste because of maybe
yeah.
everything else, Just like that's just, call out the judge or you know, send the judge an email later. Just be like, hey, I feel that, you know, this, you shouldn't be looking for every ingredient. And if enough judges hear that, I think
Yeah,
people will figure it out. But yeah, like, I know the Mazer Cup every year. I think this is one of Carvin's rants is like,
yeah,
don't ever ding a mead because you don't get every ingredient in there. Don't ever ding a mead because like you don't pick up the honey varietal. Like
yep,
you that's not how complex um, beverages are made. It's not how fermentation works. Like
yep,
just we're not all making these basic meads where just the flavors are added afterwards. It's supposed to taste like everything. So yeah, I don't yeah
yeah.
I don't like.
I love you, Billy Bells. That's a great attitude to have, and I'm on board with your theory there. If it's in there, leave it on there, and let's build a better caliber of judge.
Yeah, there. See, I could have said it a lot quicker.
Thank you so much for joining me tonight, man. Can't wait till I
All right,
get to hang out again and come back and visit again. And I will catch you in the next video, brother.
cool. All right, be good.
Have a good one.
See ya.
All right. Another BJCP video down and dirty in the books. That was phenomenal. Great information from Mr. Billy Belts there. Lost Cause does some phenomenal stuff. As you heard him mention, Oddish wines out there. If you're into the grape wines, definitely hit those guys up. They make some phenomenal stuff as well. Join me next week. I hopefully will be joined by Mr. Brick. Again, I can never get his last name right. Uh, from Atlanta, Georgia. Ooh, he's gonna lambaste me over this tomorrow, or next week for Braggots. And like I said, this is easily by far my most requested return visitor. I've had at least half a dozen to a dozen people wanting the high ABV guy coming back. So by popular demand, he's coming back to share more knowledge about Braggots and high ABV stuff. So see you guys next week. Have a good one. Peace.